I'm on. All right, so this is going to be a little different. So just go with me. You are going into the supermarket. You have to get pasta, baking soda, and aspirin. Just a couple of essentials. You know where they are. They're always in the same place. Pasta is probably with the grains and sauces. The baking soda is with the baking stuff. The aspirin's in the pharmacy. It's second nature, but not today. Today, somebody had a really awesome idea. They thought they would simplify things by alphabetizing the grocery store. So spaghetti is now sitting with soda water. Penne is with paint thinner, and angel hair is next to the pasta. So baking soda is going to be in the B's, but, well, actually, maybe it should be in the, with Arm& Hammer, right? Because that's what you think of baking soda. Okay, so that would be in the A's then. And I need to find aspirin, or is it Bayer? Well, anyway, so now I'm just kind of like wandering around the supermarket. I'm clutching my list in this fluorescent purgatory. I'm not shopping anymore. I'm like barely surviving. And I'm cursing the people who've made this decision. But I also realize they probably had the right intent in mind. They were thinking about that first-time user who can't find the marshmallows because they're always in a different place, right? So they just go to the M. Or they're thinking about it's going to be easier to stock things. It's going to be easier for inventory. But they lost the bigger picture because shopping isn't about finding things on a list. It's about completing a task. Imagine the mother who has 3 things left on the shopping list to finish her kid's birthday cake. She needs the candles, the frosting, and the sprinkles. Or you've got the guy who's really sick with a cold, who's trying to find that cold medicine that he knows that works, but he can't remember what it's called. So he's like going up and down every aisle, looking at every little box on the thing. Or you've got me, I just want some pasta. I just want to have spaghetti for dinner. Instead, I'm on a scavenger hunt. The store refrigeration costs have gone up, stocking takes forever, and all the employees are staying around trying to show people how to get to different things in the store. So the system isn't working just for the users, but it's also just failing itself. So this is what happens when you lose sight of the whole, when you lose sight of your overall goal, when the goal of simplicity isn't undertaken thoughtfully. So imagine this isn't a supermarket. Imagine it's your product or your platform, whatever experience it is that you're building. If users can't find what they need, it leaves them in the same place. You have frustration, you have wasted time, and you have higher costs, and you have lost trust. And so that's where you come in. You are all here because you're builders of some kind. You're making something, some sort of experience for a human being at the other end. So whether or not you like it, you're creating an experience, and even developers need a good experience. As a DigitalOcean user, you know that and you've heard a lot today about how we simplified things for you. So I thought it would be a really great idea to give you some tips and tricks for how you can create better experiences for your users. So, in order to do that, you have to start by understanding your users' needs. You have to respect their time, and you have to think about designing tools that not only make their lives simpler, but make them better. And when we do that, our business thrives. And it's not theory, it's actually fact. And the story of DigitalOcean, simple, proves that. So today we're here to talk about simplicity, not just the simple, hollow kind that sacrifices function for aesthetics, but the kind of simple that empowers the user. My mission today is to change the way that you think about what you make. Together, we're going to talk about how simplicity isn't about doing less, it's about enabling more while doing less. It's about designing with respect for time, for energy, and for the goals of the person at the other end of the system. So by the end of this talk, I promise you 3 things. You're going to have a different way of thinking about understanding your users. You're going to have a different mindset for how to work with complexity. And you're going to leave with an actionable framework for bringing simplicity into your work. And at the end of this, we might have some time for questions. But you can always send me an email if you want to continue something really specific and talk about your specific case study. That's my email up there. It'll be at the end as well. But for now, let's go back and start at the beginning. Before DigitalOcean, as probably some of you know, although there are some young faces, so maybe you don't know, launching a virtual machine felt like assembling furniture with parts that were spread across all around your house, and the instructions were in Greek. Allocation, memory configuration, network setup, everything had to be typed out line by line on a command line, and if you got even one character wrong, you had to go start over. It wasn't just exhausting, but it was also really expensive, not just the time, but you had to hunt down the hardware, rent it or buy it. Then you had to pay a small fortune for virtualization software. Maintenance was some never ending loop of upgrades and patches and replacements. Collaboration, it was pretty impossible. What worked on your machine would probably fall apart on somebody else's. Teams spent more time untangling problems than building solutions. And it wasn't just chaos, it was chaos with a price tag. And don't get me started on the hellish experience of trying to scale everything, forget it. So, and then we came along. DigitalOcean turned that chaos into simplicity. And I pulled up this screenshot of one of our when we first launched Droplets, and you can see our old logo up in the corner, which is really lovely. We introduced these Droplets. They're scalable virtual machines. As you know, anyone can deploy them in seconds, blah, blah, blah. No command line acrobatics, no endless configurations, just a few clicks and you're live. And what once took hours now takes minutes. And we did this because we had lived the frustration. We knew what it felt like to wrestle with the tools instead of solving real problems. We focused on meeting people where they are and freed them up to focus on what actually matters to them. So our approach to this is built on principles that you've seen used across all sorts of experiences that you've had. You'll find them listed if you Google Nielsen Norman UX heuristics, you will find them. I'm going to share 3 of them with you today, 3 that I think really exemplify what we do here. And so some principles for simplicity. First, the visibility of system status. Users should always know what's happening and what's going to happen next, whether it's knowing that a droplet is up and running or what's going to happen when you click a button. We make sure that expectations are set and that communication about what's happening is crystal clear. Second, there's a match between the system and the real world. So in other words, speak your user's language, not your language. So we could have a lot of fun with our oceanic metaphors, right? But we don't want someone to feel like they need a glossary in order to do the simplest of tasks. We make sure that we use industry standard language and explain things in real human terms. Third, recognition over recall. No one should have to memorize commands in order to get their job done. So we use standard patterns across our experiences so that no matter what you're doing, you feel like you already know how to do it. And this is most evident, I think, in our creation flows, even in our brand new GPU Droplets. We're relying on the same patterns that we built with our original Droplets. We use the repetitive patterns and real human terms that make it really easy for you to get set up for something that's actually really complex. So all of these 3 things are not just rules, but they're the backbone of how simplicity works. They're how we turn a system designed for experts into one that welcomes anyone with a dream and an internet connection. And they may sound like fundamentals, but it's so surprising how quickly and easily they are tossed aside. When simplicity works, it changes everything. It says to the user, hey, we've got this. You focus on what matters to you and we'll handle the rest. And that's what simplicity means at DigitalOcean. We're not erasing complexity, but we're taming it. We're shaping it so that it can work behind the scenes. And if that means we shoulder the burden so our users don't have to, that's something that we will do every time. So let's talk about what it means to understand your users. Great product isn't built on intention. It's not built on just clever features. It's through relentless understanding of your users, what they need, and what's holding them back. And that understanding isn't a luxury. It's the starting line for great and simple design. But simplicity itself just isn't simple. Complexity does have a way of creeping in. So whether you have the urge to cover every scenario or the temptation to pack in a whole lot of features, the result can end up being frustrating, it's confusing, and it will lead to an erosion of trust. And trust, as you know, once it's lost, is really hard to regain. So let's get to the starting place for simple. This is where lift up comes in. It's more than just like a list of steps. It's a mindset for understanding, a way to step out of your expertise and into the world of the people that you're designing for. L, listen more than you talk. So insights don't come from data alone. Stories reveal truths more than numbers can. Ask your users to share their frustrations, successes, and how they work around things. Only by listening can we truly understand their world. I. Immerse yourself in their experience. Don't just observe them. Step in, use their tools, live their lives, feel their pain. Your empathy will grow when you live the problem. It's not just listening to it. It's not just observing it. You have to actually be it. F, find diverse perspectives, test beyond the usual suspects, get beginners, get advanced people, get folks in verticals that you didn't even think of. Get those fresh insights. That diversity is going to ensure inclusivity in the results, and it's going to add to a broader understanding for you. T, test your assumptions early. Don't wait. Test before you start coding, as that gets really expensive. Validate your ideas before they're set in stone. Even like really simple prototypes can reveal gaps in your understanding. U, uncover the context. Users do not exist in a vacuum. Understand their environment, the pressure and constraints. Designing without context is like designing blind. And last, P, prioritize patterns over features. Patterns matter way more than one-off requests. They reveal recurring questions that users are asking and guide us toward more meaningful solutions. So when we lift up our users, we create more than clarity. We create trust. A trust that isn't about kind of making everything effortless. It's about showing that the effort is worth it. So the other trick for simplicity is that it doesn't mean erasing anything, really. Complexity is what makes powerful tools possible. It's the gears of a watch or the circuits of a smartphone or the layers of a droplet. These are all very complex things, but the simple fact is that users should never feel it. So think about this behind most buttons on DigitalOcean, there's a web of intricate configurations. Either you're provisioning servers or you're setting up networks or applying security protocols. But to the user, it's just a button. It's the beauty of simplicity, when where it doesn't matter and revealing it only when it does. But complexity is not something to fear. It's something to embrace, but with purpose. Instead of saying, no, this is too complicated, we as designers say yes, and let's manage it better. So here's an example. Yes, a complexity exists, but we can layer it. So think of an iceberg. The tip is visible, it's manageable, but as the user progresses, the depth is revealed only when needed. Progressive disclosure gives beginners a clean, focused experience while allowing experts to dive deeper when they are ready to. Another one, yes, complexity is necessary, and we can guide it. So imagine setting up a droplet. For most users, pre-configured details are all they need. But for advanced users, they want to tweak the CPU, the RAM, and more. It's not about removing those options for them, but it's about structuring it in a way that matches their journey. And the last example, yes, complexity can be overwhelming, but we can test for clarity. At DigitalOcean, every design goes through rounds of user testing. We don't just ask, do they understand it, but we ask, how does it feel? If users feel confident, if they feel empowered, if they're in control, then we know that we've managed that complexity really well. And when we embrace complexity with this yes and mentality, we don't just build powerful tools, but we build tools that feel powerful. Because when complexity is managed well, it empowers users instead of overwhelming them. And that's where our simplicity truly shines. And we need to acknowledge the fact that simplicity is a really deliberate act. It's the result of disciplined decisions, and they transform that complexity into clarity. If simplicity is the heart of great design, then these practices are what keep it alive. So let's explore a little toolkit that you can use, 10 rules for simple, to how to turn your insights into simple, empowering experiences. Number 1, start with the user's story, not your feature list. Every great design begins with empathy. So you understand, what is the user trying to accomplish? What's getting in their way? It's their narrative, not your roadmap. And that's what should guide your product. And if you don't start with their journey, you're already lost. When designing Dio's AI/ML landing page, Amanda in the room, we began with a user story. I need an accessible way to prototype machine learning projects. So this led to prioritizing intuitive paths for setting up AI tools rather than just showcasing every possible feature that we could come up with up front. It's kind of like how in the early days, Instagram was just about taking photos, right? And it just had that one button in the middle and you just took your photo and that was it. It kept all of that complex stuff till later. It just made that opening moment really simple. Two, cut for simplicity, not for your convenience. Cutting isn't about making it easy for your team, but it's about removing friction for the user. Sometimes it means shelving a technically impressive feature in order to prioritize something simpler, something more impactful, or something that actually has more meaning for your user. Simplicity isn't necessarily about doing less, but it's about doing what matters. Think about how Netflix kind of simplifies their interface by prominently displaying what you might want to watch next, rather than just shoving their catalog in your face. Trying to show off what they have, they focus on what you need in that moment. Three, meet users where they are, especially your first-time users. So the first interaction sets the tone for everything that follows. If users can figure out how to use your tool in those first 5 minutes, if they can't figure it out, they're never going to come back, or they may never come back. So your entry points need to be clear, the paths have to be intuitive, and the rewards have to be immediate. Confidence will start there, and that confidence will build loyalty. When onboarding new DO users, we have guided tutorials that actually do reduce the drop-offs. Similarly, like Duolingo is gamified their introduction that makes language learning feel really accessible and fun for the first-time user.
Number 4, guide with clarity. Layer complexity thoughtfully. Not every user needs the same level of depth. Provide a straightforward path for most while offering depth for those who are ready to explore. Think of it like that iceberg, accessible at the surface with substance beneath for those who need it. Complexity isn't the enemy, it's how it's presented that defines the experience. Think of Google Maps. You get turn-by-turn directions immediately, but power users can access route customization if needed.
Number 5, speak their language and not yours. A jargon is a real barrier. Use the words that your users would use to describe their goals. For developers, that might mean technical shorthand. For small businesses, plain language is probably key. Clarity connects, jargon alienates. In our RBAC predefined roles, we considered using really creative ocean-themed names for our roles, like captain or first mate. But instead, we chose really clear industry standard terms like resource viewer or modifier that would ensure that the roles aligned with how our users already think about these levels of access. So similarly, Slack uses approachable language like a huddle instead of a technical thing like a real-time audio conference. It just makes it more accessible. You know exactly what it is. It meets you where you are. Number 6, make every decision feel like the obvious choice. Users shouldn't have to guess what to do next. Every button, every label, every option should feel natural, as if it was designed just for them. Ambiguity is going to erode confidence. But confidence will build trust. Apple's AirPods, I think, exemplify this. You just open the case and the pairing begins automatically. It shows up on your phone. It's just natural. It's intuitive. You know exactly what to do. It is effortless. It is seamless. Next, keep your users informed. Feedback is your secret weapon. So a responsive system is going to inspire trust. You want to confirm when something succeeds, and you want to warn when something might go wrong. At every step, keep your users informed so that they feel like they're in control, that they're not confused or left in the dark. Our server management dashboard provides real-time updates on server health and actions. It's kind of like the Domino's pizza tracker, where you can see it go into the oven, get in the car, and arrive to your house. You know exactly what's going on at all times. You trust that your pizza is going to arrive, right? It knows all about it. Next, you want to test your assumptions relentlessly. All design, all of these choices are based on assumptions, but don't take those assumptions for granted. Watch real users interact with your product. Where do they hesitate? Where do they stumble? Test as if you are wrong and ensure that you're building for your users and not just for yourself. A DO usability test showed us that users were struggling with a multi-step API key creation process. So we took that information and it led us to a simpler flow. Similarly, Dyson, the vacuum maker, they tested hundreds of different versions of just the handle of their vacuum to get the right one. It ensured that they could have comfort across a whole diverse set of users, not just like a couple of folks in the office with a strong opinion. Nine, you want consistency will breed comfort. Buttons, labels, interactions should all mean the same thing everywhere. Familiarity will help your users feel at ease. When people know what to expect, they can focus on their goals instead of trying to decipher your interface. Consistency doesn't just simplify, but it builds trust. DO's consistent color coding throughout, like for actions like delete or save, ensure that users always know what to expect. Just kind of like you always know where to click the button to order your Starbucks from your app. You always know where to do it. It's always in the same place. It is predictable. It is reliable. And last, you want to collaborate for coherence. Simplicity is never the work of one person or one team. Engineers, designers, product managers, researchers, everybody at your company has to align to create a seamless experience. Coherence isn't the result of an isolated effort, but it's born from a shared understanding. When we publish our API documents, it requires a really close collaboration between engineers and technical writers to ensure that the examples are realistic and aligned with user workflows. I'm always advocating for design and documentation to be engaged from step zero of every process. Think of how Disney Imagineers work across teams to create park attractions that blend storytelling, engineering, and design seamlessly. So these are not abstract principles, they're actionable practices. And when you pair them with like the LIFT framework, they give you both the why and the how. So you lift up helps you see the world through the eyes of your users. And then these 10 principles guide us to act on that understanding. Together, they form one framework and one set of rules that are simple, clear, and practical. They're the foundation for creating not just better tools, but better experiences. Simplicity isn't just a feature, it's a commitment to trust, empowerment, and making a real difference for the people who rely on what you build. So, as we move forward, I'll ask you, what will you simplify next? What complexities in your product or your workflow could be layered, structured, or hidden to make the experiences clearer for your users? Are you guiding users to clarity, or are you just throwing them into the deep end? So answer those questions with your team. Simplicity is a goal, like I said, for everyone. Prioritize it together, track the metrics, hold everyone accountable for experience, lift up your users, and bring the human value of simplicity into your criteria for success. So let's step back to where we began, those awful supermarket alphabetized aisles. The chaos, though, wasn't really about misplaced pasta or baking soda. It was about trust. It was broken by a system that promised to help, but it didn't. The real tragedy wasn't necessarily the confusion, but it was the failure to respect the journey of the people that were there. And that's what simplicity is really about. It's about respect. Respect for the messy, beautiful complexity of being human. It's respect for the time, the goals, and the ingenuity of your users. Simplicity is the work of invisible hands. Sometimes it's removing obstacles, it's illuminating paths, it's letting people focus on what really matters. And when it's done right, the tools disappear, and what's left is trust. Trust in the process, trust in the system, and trust that things are easier than they seem. So we've explored how to make this happen. We have the lift up framework that helps you understand the people who rely on you, and then the 10 principles that turn that understanding into action. Together, they're a map and a compass for creating simplicity that feels inevitable, like it was always meant to be. But really, this isn't about frameworks or rules. It's about people. The developer who is deploying their first app, the small business owner who's troubleshooting billing at midnight, the team lead untangling permissions. These aren't just persona, but they are people. They have lives, they have deadlines, they have hopes and fears. So what are you going to do for them? What complexity are you going to tackle? What will you clear away to make room for something better? Every button, every label is a chance to say, we thought of you. Simplicity isn't about erasing effort. It's about deciding where the effort belongs. And if it's not on us, it falls to them. But when we choose wisely, we can create more than just good design. We can create something really enduring. So the next time you face chaos in your design, ask yourself, where's the trust? Where's the care? And what would this look like if simplicity weren't just a goal, but a promise? Because that's where simplicity lives. It's not in the absence of complexity. It's in the quiet, deliberate act of making life just a little bit easier for someone else.